Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to this session of digital communication. And in our previous class, we were discussing about QPSK, and we were specifically into calculating probability of error for QPSA scheme. So, in the process of deriving mathematical formula for probability of error, we had considered signal S4 of t to be transmitted, for which the necessary condition at the receiver for proper decoding is both x1 as well as x2 should be greater than 0. And because both are independent events, we did got to know that probability of correct decoding can be thought of as equal to p of x1 greater than 0 given s4 is transmitted into probability of x2 greater than 0 given S4 is transmitted. And we know that this can be rewritten in terms of integration of conditional PDF. And this conditional PDF is a Gaussian process that which follows a Gaussian distribution. And we are quite familiar with this formula. So let's make use of this formula. And in place of Sij over here, we got to substitute S subscript 41 coefficient value. Likewise here S42 coefficient value. So here this is not equal to x, but it's equal to I. And in order to solve this daunting equation, we'll make use of substitution method, where we'll assume the thing which is within the square brackets as equal to variable z. We did made use of a similar drill for solving probability of error for BPSK. So here we are following the same drill, but the only thing is we are trying to do it for a die bit. So because of this die bit, because two bits are involved for every symbol in QPSK scheme, and we are assuming both of these to be equal to z. So in fact, I'll get this whole square. So this is where we had stopped in our previous class. So right now, all we are trying to do is we are trying to derive probability of current event, because we already know that probability of a current event plus probability of error event is in turn equal to 1, where this 1 is nothing but probability of its sample space. Or in other words, here we are trying to find out probability of current event first, and in order to calculate probability of error formula, all we got to do is move this probability of correct function onto our right hand side such that we can easily land onto probability of error formula as P of E in turn is equal to 1 minus PC. So we'll make use of this methodology, and by now we know that probability of getting correct decoding is given as equal to, so PC over here is equal to 1 by square root of pi integration starting from minus square root of e by 2n naught upper limit infinity of e to the power minus z square dz whole square. So right now let's try to solve this complex equation, or let's consider the thing that which is within this square brackets. For time being, let's neglect this whole square, and we can prove that this expression 1 by square root of pi integration starting from minus square root of e by 2n naught upper limit infinity of e to the power minus z square ez is in turn equal to 1 minus 1 by 2 of complementary error function ERFC of here. Remember, the lower limit plays an important crucial role. So we'll make use of this function over here, square root of e by 2n naught. So this is an important relationship that which we got to remember. So this is an important relationship which we got to remember. And let's use this relation back in our previous expression for probability of correct decoding. So in turn, in this portion of square bracket, I can substitute it with 1 minus 1 by 2 complementary error function of square root of e by 2n naught whole square. Now this is in what fashion? This is in a minus b whole square fashion, which if we expand will land onto a square plus b square minus 2ab. So let me consider this. So if I expand this expression, I'll get it as 1 square is 1 plus b square is 1 by 2 square complementary error function square of square root of e by 2n naught minus 2 times of a value is 1 and whereas b value is 1 by 2 into complementary error function of square root of e by 2n naught. So back here I can cancel out 2 over here and 2 over here, and I'll in turn have this PC equal to 1 plus 1 by 4 complementary error function square of square root of e by 2n naught minus complementary error function of square root e by 2n naught. So now let's specifically try to get to know some of the properties of complementary error function. So if we look at some of the properties of complementary error function, we can get to know that complementary error function of infinite value is equal to 0. So as and when the x value increases, you can see that this function is getting the value equal to 0. In this entire region, the value is 0. But complementary error function of 0 is equal to 1. Likewise, complementary error function of negative infinity. So if we move on in this direction, that is representing negative values of x, here you can see that this complementary error function is getting saturated to positive 2 value. So these are some of the properties of complementary error function. Now out of which, let's consider this property number 3. Let's consider this property number 3, that which states complementary error function of a large number will be equal to 0. What large number? Any value that which is greater than 2. That which is greater than 2 will land us onto what value? 0. So here, let's get back to our derivation. And here is where we are having not just complementary error function, but it is getting squared, which means we'll in turn land onto a very large number. And as a matter of fact, here I can also think of this number that which is instead of square root, that is e by 2 and naught. Assuming this to be much greater than 1, I can neglect this second term. So this second term can be neglected because it tends to towards 0, and all will be left out with is PC intern equal to 1 minus complementary error function square root of e by 2 and naught. And as a matter of fact, this PC formula that which we have just arrived at can be mapped onto PC intern equal to 1 minus PE, or in turn, if I were to rewrite the formula for PE, all I got to do is take this PC onto our right hand side and move this PE onto left hand side, and in turn probability of error function is equal to 1 minus PC. So thereby probability of error for QPSK is in turn approximately equal to, because we are trying to make use of this approximation. Assuming this, we can state that PE probability of error for QPSK is approximately equal to complementary error function square root of e by 2 n naught. And over here, E represents 2EB because for QPSK, each symbol is composed of 2 bits, or we usually call this as die bits. So because of that, this E is in turn equal to 2 times of EB. So this P of E is in turn equal to, or probability of error is in turn approximately equal to complementary error function of, so here in place of E, if I substitute 2 times of EB, 2 gets cancelled and I'll be left out with EB by N naught. So this is the probability of error for QPSK. So we have done the same thing over here and we have arrived at this formula. So before we start discussing about Emory PSK, let's first go through the transmitter and receiver block diagram. So now let's consider QPSK transmitter diagram, where it consists of binary data sequence that which produces Mi of t, and in turn it will be fed to polar non-return to zero level encoder, and in turn it will be given onto a demultiplexer. So what's a demultiplexer? So demultiplexer acts in the exact opposite fashion to that of a multiplexer, where a demultiplexer has a single input and two outputs. So here I'm trying to consider the simplest demultiplexer, and its size is 1 cross 2, where the first number represents the number of input and the other number represents the number of outputs. So again over here we'll have some selection lines. So because it's a very simple basic demultiplexer, here we'll have only single selection line, and depending upon the combination of selection line, this input will be fed to one of the output. So a similar kind of demultiplexer is employed over here, that which has two outputs. So if I think of this as output 1 and this is output 2 and these are input. So here also we are having an input and we are having two outputs, output 1 and output 2. So over here, if our binary data sequence is something like 0, 1, 1, 0, so then it will be first sent through polar non-return to 0 level encoder, and right after that the starting 2 bits will be selected, where 0 will be our output 1 and 1 will be output 2, and in turn this will be sent onto a multiplier stage where it gets multiplied with the basis function phi1 of t, and whereas the other bit gets multiplied with the other basis function phi2 of t, and in turn we got to sum up these two values in order to get our QPSK signal. So this happens for time interval t, that which is in turn equal to 2 times tb, and for our next cycle message bits will be considered, where 1 will be assigned on to output 1 and 0 will be assigned on to output 2, and in turn this gets multiplied with our first basis function, and the other bit over here gets multiplied with our second basis function, and in turn it both will be added in order to get our QPSK signal, and in turn that will be transmitted over the channel. So this is how our QPSK transmitter works. Likewise, back in our QPSK receiver, we'll be receiving signal x of t, that which is summation of si t plus wt, and out of which we got to extract x1 as well as x2 point. So we'll make it to pass through a correlator stage where we'll call the first correlator stage as in-phase channel because it is associated with basis function phi1 of t. And we know that our first basis function is equal to phi1 of t is equal to square root of 2 by t into cos 2 pi fct, and phi2 of t is equal to, so this is the other basis function, this is equal to square root of 2 by t sin 2 pi fct. So keeping these values in our mind, so phi1 of t is square root of 2 by t into cos 2 pi fct. So because here we are using cos function, we'll call this as in-phase channel, and likewise the other correlator stage, here we call this as quadrature channel because here basis function phi2 of t is equal to 1 by square root of 2 by t into sin 2 pi fct. So because of this sign, we'll call this as quadrature channel. So when we make this received signal x of t to go through this correlator stage, we'll in turn get x1 over in phase channel and x2 over quadrature channel, and we'll make use of addition device where we'll maintain threshold value as equal to 0, and after that we'll make it to pass through this multiplexer stage where we'll be in turn combining x1 and x2 in order to estimate m cap. And over here we already know the constellation diagram for QPSK, where this is phi1 and this is phi2, where in few textbooks phi1 is also called as in phase And this phi 2 is also called as q phase or quadrature phase. So here let's assume that we are getting some value for x1 and x2, and here we are considering threshold value as 0 because if x1 is greater than 0, let's assume that we are getting x1 as a positive value. Right now this x1 is greater than 0. Likewise, let's assume that x2 is also greater than 0. If both are 0, I got to plot that received signal in our region Z4. So in order to plot this point x1 and x2, I got to traverse a distance of x1 over phi 1 followed by traverse a distance x2 along phi 2 in order to plot this point. And if this point falls anywhere in this region Z4, I can I can conclude that the transmitted message is 1 1, that which will bring me correct decoding. Or else, if x1 is lesser than 0, then, and let's assume that x2 is positive, then I got to traverse x1 distance along phi 1 but along the negative direction because right now x1 is lesser than 0 indicating it to be negative, and whereas phi 2 is still positive, meaning I got to traverse x2 distance along phi 2, and right now this observed point falls in the second quadrant or region Z4, Z3, and when the observed point falls in region Z3, we can estimate that symbol 01 has been transmitted. So this is how decoding will be done, and in turn, right after decoding, we can estimate what symbol was transmitted. So this is how QPSK receiver works. Now, before we start with our Emery QPSK, let's try to go through how exactly this happens in waveform. So this waveform represents QPSK, where initially we have considered some input binary sequence. So these are input binary sequence, and here I can label them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And over here, all I got to do is separate these bits into odd numbered and even numbered sequence. So this can be thought of as odd numbered sequence because this bit right now corresponds to 1, 3. Similarly, this corresponds to 5. This corresponds to 7. So under odd numbered sequence, all I got to do is repeat the same bit twice. So here, all I'm trying to do is repeat the same bit for the other time interval TB. In a similar way, I got to form even numbered sequence where this forms even numbered bit portion values. So which I'll be extending again for one more cycle like this. So over here 6-bit portion is 0. So this value has to be continued over here for the other bit interval. Now as a matter of fact, we all know that we are making use of cos function over here, cos 2 pi fct, and we already know cos function at 0, cos function value will be equal to 1, and at 90 it's equal to 0, and in a similar way at 180 its value is minus 1, and at 2 pi radian its value will be again equal to 1. So here let me write some imaginary lines. I'll draw one more line down below this maximum value, that which is somewhat above the half amplitude value of positive cycle. In a similar way, I'll draw two more horizontal lines, dotted lines over here. So here I can think of this as 0 radian, this portion as 0 radian, and somewhere here this angle corresponds to pi by 4, that is 45 degree, and this angle corresponds to pi by 2, that is 90, and this angle right now corresponds to 3 pi by 4. Similarly, this angle corresponds to pi, this angle corresponds to 5 pi by 4, and this angle over here corresponds to 7 pi by 4, and finally this angle corresponds to 2 pi. And let me draw the constellation diagram. So we all know that this fourth quadrant corresponds to diabit 1 0, and the third quadrant corresponds to diabit 0 0, and the second quadrant corresponds to diabit 0 1, and our first quadrant corresponds to diabit 1 1. Or with respect to phase, this fourth quadrant corresponds to a phase angle of pi by 4. The third quadrant corresponds to a phase angle of 3 pi by 4. Second quadrant corresponds to a phase angle of 5 pi by 4. And the first quadrant corresponds to a phase angle of 7 pi by 4. So back over here, while drawing QPSK waveform, all I got to do is think of values that which we are getting. So initially we are getting value 0 1. So for 0 1, this thing corresponds to second quadrant, that which is associated with a phase value of 5 pi by 4. And where exactly we are having 5 pi by 4? We are having somewhere over here. We are having 5 pi by 4 somewhere over here. Let me copy or duplicate this. So for input message, or for diabit equal to 0 1, for diabit equal to 0 1, we got to make use of a cosine waveform, that which is associated with phase value 5 pi by 4. So 5 pi by 4 is somewhere over here. So right now the signal leads. So I can think of this to be cos 2 pi fct plus 5 pi by 4. So because of which we got to make use of a waveform that which starts at 5 pi by 4. So in fact, I can think of this cosine waveform starting right at this portion. It starts at this portion and it will continue for two more cycles. So right now we are done with one cycle. Likewise, for the second cycle, again it starts at 5 pi by 4. So the same thing is depicted over here from here to here. And for our second diabit, that which is 1 0, so 1 0 corresponds to fourth quadrant, that which is associated with the phase angle of pi by 4. And where is pi by 4? Pi by 4 is here. So the waveform should start from this portion. So this completes one full cycle. Likewise, I got to repeat it for one more TB interval. So we are trying to depict the same thing from here to here. And because our second debit is also 1 0, for which we'll make use of again phase value pi by 4. So this waveforms looks to be continuous, and right after that dibit we are having next dibit as 0 0, and for 0 0 the phase angle involved is 3 pi by 4, that which starts at somewhere over here. So because of that, this last waveform is starting from here to here. So this is how we can draw QPSK waveform. So in this session we did derived an expression for probability of error for QPSK scheme, and we did went through a transmitter and receiver block diagram of QPSK scheme, and finally we did went through how exactly to draw waveforms for QPSK scheme. So in our next class we'll discuss about Emery QPSK. We'll discuss about Emery PSK scheme. Till then, stay safe and healthy. Thanks for watching.